Oh, you felt it, didn't you? That shift in the atmosphere, that change in the frequency, that moment when the room got quiet and every eye found you in the chaos. You thought it was random. You thought maybe you imagined it. But no, beautiful soul, you didn't imagine anything. They saw you. Not just saw you, they identified you, scanned you, selected you. And now you're being pulled from the masses, escorted through the confusion, hand-picked out of the crowd like a precious artifact they've been searching for. But here's where your stomach should drop. Here's where that smile should freeze on your face. Here's where you need to understand something critical. They're not pulling you forward because you won. They're pulling you forward because you're the experiment they've been waiting for, the test subject they need, the perfect candidate for something you never auditioned for. Welcome to the front lines, sweetheart. This isn't the promotion you thought it was. Let me break this down before you start celebrating, before you wave to the crowd you're leaving behind, before you assume this means you've arrived. When you get selected, when you get chosen, when you get escorted to the front, people always think it's recognition. They think it's reward. They think it's finally their turn to shine, their moment to be seen, their opportunity to prove everyone wrong who doubted them. But that's surface thinking. That's what they want you to believe. That's the illusion that keeps you walking forward with your chest puffed out, completely blind to what's actually happening. See, the front row isn't just proximity to power. The front row is visibility from all angles, exposure from every direction, surveillance disguised as spotlight, examination masked as elevation. You're not being honored, you're being positioned. And position, my friend, is everything in the game you just entered without reading the rules. Think about it. Think about every time someone got pulled from obscurity into the spotlight. Think about every person who went from nobody knowing their name to everybody dissecting their life. Think about what happened next. Did peace follow them? Did privacy protect them? Did authenticity survive the transition? Or did something else happen? Something darker, something they never saw coming until it was too late to step back into the safety of anonymity. The crowd offers camouflage. The crowd offers protection. The crowd offers the luxury of existing without constant analysis, without relentless judgment, without every breath being measured against impossible standards. But you got selected. You got chosen. You got marked. And now the real games begin. The ones you never trained for. The ones nobody warned you about because the people who survived them are too traumatized to speak and the people who didn't survive them can't speak at all. They're watching you differently now. Before, you were just another face, another voice, another person trying to navigate this chaos we call life. You could make mistakes in relative privacy. You could grow without an audience. You could fail and recover without the world taking notes. But that immunity just expired. That grace period just ended. That protection just dissolved. Because once you're pulled to the front, once you're positioned in that spotlight, once you're handpicked and escorted past everyone else, you become public property. Your choices become case studies. Your failures become entertainment. Your success becomes a threat. Your humanity becomes optional. And the people who pulled you forward, they're not rooting for you. They're studying you, waiting for you to crack, to stumble, to reveal the flaw they suspected was there all along. Here's what nobody tells you about being chosen. The moment you accept that escort to the front, the moment you step into that spotlight, the moment you allow yourself to be positioned where everyone can see you, you surrender something precious. You surrender the right to be complex. You surrender the permission to be contradictory. You surrender the freedom to evolve without commentary. Because now, you're a symbol. Now you're a representation. Now you're carrying the projections, the expectations, the fantasies and fears of everyone who's watching. And they will watch. Trust that. They will analyze. Believe that. They will dissect every word, every move, every choice, every relationship, every success, every failure, looking for proof of whatever narrative they've already decided you represent. You're not a person anymore. You're a screen. And everyone's projecting their own movie onto you. But let's go deeper, because this gets so much more sinister than simple observation. Let's talk about why you specifically got selected. Let's talk about the targeting, the precision, the calculation behind your selection. They didn't pull just anyone from that crowd. They pulled you. And that should terrify you more than it flatters you. Because they saw something in you, something specific, something they need for whatever's about to unfold. Maybe they saw your potential and they need to neutralize it before it threatens their control. Maybe they saw your influence and they need to redirect it before you wake others up. Maybe they saw your light and they need to study it so they can learn how to dim it in others. Or maybe, just maybe, they saw your wounds and they know exactly how to weaponize them against you. See, the selection process isn't random. It's strategic. It's warfare disguised as opportunity. It's a setup masquerading as a blessing. They watched you in that crowd. They studied your patterns, your triggers, your desires, your weaknesses. They learned what makes you move, what makes you stop, what makes you speak, what makes you silent. They identified your hunger, the thing you've been chasing, the validation you've been craving, the recognition you've been desperate for. And then they dangled it. They offered it. They pulled you forward and said, "This is it. This is your moment. This is what you've been working for." And your heart, your beautiful, hopeful, hungry heart, it believed them. It accepted the escort. It walked toward the front. It stepped into position. And now the trap is set. Now the experiment begins. Now they get to watch what happens when they give someone everything they wanted just to see if it destroys them. The front row is a pressure cooker. The spotlight is a microscope. The elevation is a test chamber. And you're the subject. They want to see if you'll change. They want to see if success corrupts you. They want to see if visibility makes you vain. They want to see if power poisons you. They want to see if opportunity exposes what you were hiding behind struggle. Because here's the sick truth. Here's the part that makes this whole selection process so dark. They're not hoping you succeed. They're betting you'll fail. They pulled you forward, expecting, anticipating, waiting for the moment when the pressure breaks you, when the spotlight reveals your shadow, when the elevation exposes your limits. They want proof that even you, even the one who seemed different, even the one who appeared authentic, you're just like everyone else who got chosen and then destroyed by what they couldn't handle. And if you do crack, if you do stumble, if you do reveal a flaw, a mistake, a moment of weakness, oh, they'll feast on it. They'll dissect it. They'll share it. They'll use it as evidence that they were right about you all along, that you never deserved to be pulled from the crowd, that your selection was a mistake, that you should have stayed hidden where you belonged. The moment you fail publicly, the moment you fall visibly, the moment you make a mistake everyone can see, you become the cautionary tale. You become the warning. You become the example of what happens when someone reaches too high, shines too bright, wants too much. And that narrative, that story of your downfall, it serves a purpose. It keeps others in the crowd compliant. It keeps them small. It keeps them scared to be selected because look what happened to you. But here's where it gets even more twisted. Even if you don't fail, even if you handle the pressure, even if you navigate the spotlight with grace and maintain your integrity through the elevation, they'll still find a way to destroy you. Because your success without corruption is almost more dangerous than your failure. Your ability to rise without rotting challenges their entire worldview. Your capacity to shine without selling your soul threatens their justification for the compromises they made. Your strength in that front row, your consistency under scrutiny, your maintained humanity despite the dehumanization, it proves something they can't afford to have proven. It proves that it's possible. It proves that integrity can survive visibility. It proves that not everyone breaks under pressure. And that makes you more than a test subject. That makes you a threat. So now you're at the front, and the expectations are crushing. The people behind you, the crowd you were pulled from, they're watching you differently now. Some with hope, thinking if you can make it, maybe they can too. Some with envy, hating that you were chosen and they weren't. Some with skepticism, waiting for proof that you're a fraud. Some with projection, needing you to be perfect so they can believe perfection is possible. And all of them, every single one of them, they're demanding a performance. They want you to be inspiring but relatable. They want you to be confident but humble. They want you to be successful but struggling just enough to prove you're still human. They want you to be exceptional but accessible. They want contradictions. They want impossibilities. They want you to be everything they need you to be. And the moment you're not, the moment you're just yourself, flawed and complex and real, they'll turn on you faster than they lifted you up. The performance is exhausting. You have to watch every word now because everything you say is interpreted, analyzed, twisted to fit whatever narrative people need. You have to control every expression because your face is being read like a book by people who've never bothered to learn your language. You have to measure every choice because your decisions aren't just yours anymore. They represent something to someone. They mean something to people who've made you a symbol of their hopes or fears. You can't be tired without people questioning your work ethic. You can't be happy without people accusing you of bragging. You can't be sad without people claiming you're ungrateful. You can't be angry without people calling you difficult. You can't be vulnerable without people seeing weakness. You can't be strong without people calling you cold. Every authentic emotion becomes a liability. Every honest moment becomes evidence. Every real reaction becomes a scandal. And the people who pulled you forward, the ones who selected you, positioned you, escorted you to the front, they're watching the performance with clipboards and scorecards. They're measuring your compliance, they're tracking your usefulness, they're calculating your value. Because make no mistake, your selection had a purpose. They need something from you. Maybe it's your influence over others. Maybe it's your credibility in spaces they can't access. Maybe it's your talent they want to profit from. Maybe it's your story they want to exploit. Maybe it's your silence they want to ensure. Maybe it's your cooperation they want to secure. Whatever it is, they selected you because you serve a function. And the moment you stop serving that function, the moment you question their motives, the moment you refuse to play your assigned role, that escort to the front becomes an escort right back out. Except this time, it's not gentle, it's not ceremonial. It's a public execution, disguised as a cancellation. You're expected to be grateful. That's the unspoken rule of being selected. You're supposed to thank them endlessly for choosing you, for seeing you, for giving you this opportunity. You're supposed to prove through constant appreciation and unwavering loyalty that you understand what a privilege it is to be at the front. You're supposed to never question why you were selected. You're supposed to never examine the motives behind your positioning. You're supposed to never recognize the strings attached to your elevation. You're supposed to stay grateful, stay compliant, stay performing, because gratitude keeps you controllable. Gratitude keeps you quiet. Gratitude keeps you from seeing that this selection, this escort to the front, this handpicking from the crowd, it wasn't about you at all. It was about them. It was always about them. What they need, what they want, what they can get from positioning you exactly where they need you to be. The loneliness hits different at the front. You thought being selected meant you'd finally be understood, finally be seen, finally be surrounded by people who get it. But it's the opposite. The front is isolating in ways the crowd never was, because now you can't trust the friendships. Are people close to you because they genuinely care, or because proximity to you serves them? You can't trust the praise. Are people complimenting you because they mean it, or because flattery gets them access? You can't trust the criticism. Are people challenging you to help you grow, or to sabotage your confidence? You can't trust the support. Are people encouraging you because they want you to succeed, or because they're managing you, steering you, keeping you on the path that benefits them? Every relationship becomes a question mark. Every interaction becomes a potential manipulation. Every connection becomes suspect. And you're standing at the front, visible to everyone, truly known by no one. But here's what they didn't count on. Here's the variable they couldn't control. Here's the outcome they never predicted. Some people, a rare few, when they get pulled to the front, when they get positioned under that spotlight, when they get hand-picked from the crowd, something unexpected happens. Instead of breaking, they wake up. Instead of performing, they see through the performance. Instead of conforming, they recognize the cage. Instead of being grateful for the selection, they start questioning who benefits from their positioning. Instead of feeling honored by the escort, they start examining where they're actually being led. And that awakening, that clarity, that refusal to stay blind, it's the most dangerous thing that can happen in this entire setup. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you recognize the pattern, you can't pretend it's random. Once you understand the game, you can't keep playing like it's authentic. You start noticing things. You start seeing how they position certain people at certain times for specific purposes. You start recognizing how they elevate voices that serve their narrative and silence voices that challenge it. You start understanding how they use selection as control, visibility as surveillance, platforms as leashes. You start realizing that the front row isn't the destination, it's the display case. And you're not being honored, you're being exhibited, shown off to prove something to someone, used to send a message to the crowd, positioned to serve an agenda you never agreed to support. And once that awakening happens, once that realization hits, you have a choice to make, a real choice. Not the fake choices they've been giving you, the ones where every option still serves their purpose, but an actual choice that determines your path forward. You can stay at the front and use the position they gave you against them. You can take the visibility they intended as surveillance and turn it into a spotlight on their manipulation. You can accept the platform they built to control you and use it to expose the control. You can play the game they designed but change the rules mid-play. Or you can walk away. You can reject the selection. You can refuse the positioning. You can step out of the spotlight and back into the crowd, not as a failure, not as someone who couldn't handle it, but as someone who saw the trap and refused to stay caught. Both choices terrify them. Both paths threaten everything they built. Because if you stay and weaponize the position they gave you, if you turn their own setup against them, if you use the very platform they designed to control you to instead reveal their mechanisms of control, you become unstoppable. You become the insider exposing the system. You become the selected one who broke the script. You become the positioned piece that moved off the board. You become living proof that their selection process can backfire, that their carefully chosen subjects can become their most dangerous opposition. And that terrifies them because it means they can't trust their own selections anymore. It means anyone they pull to the front could wake up. It means every person they position could become the one who dismantles the whole operation. But if you walk away, if you reject the selection after accepting it, if you step back into the crowd after seeing the front, that's almost worse for them. Because your voluntary exit, your conscious choice to refuse what they offered, your deliberate rejection of the position they gave you, it raises questions they can't afford to have raised. Why would someone walk away from the front row? What did they see up there that made them choose the crowd instead? What's wrong with the selection that someone would refuse it? Your exit becomes evidence. Your rejection becomes testimony. Your choice to step back becomes a warning to others. And now their selection process isn't just questionable. It's exposed as something people might want to avoid rather than achieve. Let me tell you what they never say when they pull you from the crowd. Let me share what the escort to the front conveniently leaves out. Let me expose what the selection process is actually designed to do. It's not about elevation. It's about isolation. It's not about opportunity. It's about observation. It's not about recognition. It's about research. They pull you from the crowd because in the crowd you had support, you had community, you had the safety of shared experience. But at the front, you're alone. At the front, you're separated from the very people who could protect you, warn you, remind you who you were before the selection. At the front, you're vulnerable to their influence because you have no counterbalance, no alternative perspective, no one whispering truth in your ear when they start whispering lies. The selection is the separation. That's the whole point. They can't control you while you're embedded in community. They can't manipulate you while you're surrounded by people who know your truth. They can't reshape you while you're connected to your roots. So they pull you out. They elevate you above. They position you apart. They make you special. They make you different. They make you separate. And in that separation, in that isolation disguised as distinction, they get access. Access to your thoughts without competition. Access to your decisions without input from people who actually care about you. Access to your identity without interference from the community that helped shape it. Access to your future without resistance from the past that grounded you. And here's the cruelest part. The crowd you were pulled from, the people you left behind, they can't save you even if they wanted to, because the distance isn't just physical. The distance is psychological. The moment you got selected, the moment you got escorted to the front, a gap opened between you and them. A gap made of envy, assumption, projection, misunderstanding. They think you've changed. You think they don't understand. They think success made you different. You think struggle made them bitter. They think you forgot where you came from. You think they can't relate to where you're going. And in that gap, in that space of disconnection, you become even more isolated, even more alone, even more vulnerable to the very people who selected you in the first place. Oh. So you finally decided to look up, did you? You finally felt it, didn't you? That strange electric current running through your spine when you walk into rooms that suddenly get quieter. That unexplainable weight pressing on your chest when your phone lights up with messages from people who haven't thought about you in years. That tingling sensation at the back of your neck telling you something massive has shifted in the atmosphere around your existence. Well, let me tell you something that's going to rearrange every assumption you've ever made about your place in this world. Your name. Yes, your name. The one you whisper to yourself in the mirror when you're practicing confidence. The one that feels so ordinary to you. That name is currently being spoken in rooms you will never enter, by people whose faces you'll never see, in contexts so wildly different from each other that if you heard them all at once, your brain would short circuit trying to make sense of it. And I'm not talking about casual mentions. I'm not talking about, oh yeah, I remember them from that thing. No. I'm talking about your name being the central character in stories you didn't even know you were part of. I'm talking about your name being the answer to questions people are desperately asking. I'm talking about your name being the example, the warning, the inspiration, the obsession, the breakthrough, the case study, the cautionary tale, the success model, and the standard all at once. You want proof? Let me paint you a picture so vivid you'll taste the reality of it. Right now, as you watch this, somewhere in a therapy session in a city you've never visited, a therapist is taking notes while their patient describes you. Not by your name, maybe, but by your characteristics, your energy, your impact. There was this person who... And the therapist is leaning forward because what they're hearing is textbook attachment trauma, textbook projection, textbook unresolved obsession, wrapped in the language of moving on. Your name might not be said out loud, but you're there, haunting the hour-long session, living rent-free in someone else's breakthrough moment. And in a boardroom, somewhere glass windows reach the sky and leather chairs cost more than monthly rent, executives are referencing you. Maybe not directly, maybe they're calling you, that situation we learned from, or remember when we dealt with that particular challenge. But make no mistake, You're the case file. You're the lesson they extracted value from. You're the experience they turned into strategy. They analyzed you, packaged you, learned from the way you moved, the way you responded, the way you didn't break when they expected you to shatter into a million exploitable pieces. You became data. You became the example they use when training new managers on how to handle difficult situations or complex personalities. They don't hate you in these rooms. They respect you, which is somehow more unsettling, because respect means they studied you thoroughly enough to recognize they couldn't break you down the way they broke down others. You were different. You were the equation that didn't solve the way it should have. You were the variable that changed the entire formula. And now you're part of their institutional memory, sealed in strategy documents, referenced in quarterly reviews, whispered about during coffee breaks when someone asks whatever happened with, and the room goes silent because everyone knows, but nobody says it out loud. They don't say it because speaking your name gives you power. Speaking your name acknowledges that you won something they're still trying to understand how they lost. But wait, there's more. Because while corporate strategists are analyzing you and therapists are unpacking you, there's another room. A quieter room. A room where someone is on their knees, hands pressed together, eyes closed, speaking to something bigger than both of you. And they're praying about you, not against you like you might think, not cursing you out to the universe like some bitter ritual. No, they're praying for you. They're asking for your peace. They're asking for your success. They're asking for your healing. They're asking forgiveness for what they did, what they said, what they contributed to. They're praying because your absence created a void so loud that silence became deafening. They're praying because they finally understood what they lost after it was too late to retrieve it. They're praying because every substitute they tried to fill your space with felt like cardboard cutouts compared to the three-dimensional presence you brought into their life. They're praying because late at night when the world goes quiet and the distractions fade away, your name is the one that surfaces from the depths of their regret, like a message in a bottle they can't ignore. And this isn't one person. This is multiple people, in multiple places, at multiple times, all doing the same thing, all reaching toward the same conclusion, that letting you go, pushing you away, underestimating you, or playing games with you was the biggest miscalculation of their existence. Let's go deeper, because we're only scratching the surface. Your name is in group chats you're not part of. Long threads where people who claim they don't think about you anymore can't stop bringing you up. Did you see? Do you think? Remember when? I wonder if. Hundreds of messages, thousands of characters, all circling around the gravitational pull of your existence. You're the ghost in their conversations, the elephant in their digital rooms, the energy they can't shake no matter how many times they tell themselves they've moved on. They track you without admitting they're tracking you. They notice without admitting they're noticing. They care without admitting they care. And it drives them absolutely insane because you're not performing for them anymore. You're not giving them the content they crave. You're not playing the character they wrote for you in their narrative. You went silent, and that silence is louder than anything you could have said. Your absence is more present than your presence ever was. You became the main character by simply removing yourself from their storyline, and that plot twist nobody saw coming is now the twist everyone is still trying to process, analyze, and somehow make sense of in a way that doesn't make them the villain of their own story. And it gets even more fascinating, because your name is also being mentioned in business pitches. In startup meetings where someone is explaining a concept and they say, it's like what happened with Trass, and your situation becomes the metaphor. You're the illustration. You're the real-world example that makes abstract concepts concrete. Someone, somewhere, is building an entire presentation around the lessons extracted from watching how you handled pressure, how you maintained integrity, how you refused to compromise yourself, even when compromise would have been easier, more profitable, more socially acceptable. You became a principle. You became a philosophy. You became proof that certain values aren't just theoretical. They're livable, survivable, achievable, even when the entire environment is designed to make you abandon them. Business students are studying you without knowing they're studying you. Leadership coaches are using your story without attributing it to you. Motivational speakers are referencing the patterns you demonstrated without ever mentioning your name explicitly. You became case study material for human resilience, strategic silence, and the power of maintaining composure under sustained psychological pressure. They bottled your essence and turned it into curriculum. They observed your moves and turned them into methodology. They watched you survive and turned survival into a teachable framework. Now let's talk about the social spaces, because those are interesting. Coffee shop conversations where friends are dissecting you with the analytical precision of forensic scientists. I think they did that because, no, I heard they were actually. But consider this angle. They're creating theories about you like you're some kind of mysterious phenomenon that needs explanation. They're connecting dots that don't exist, finding patterns in random noise, attributing meaning to actions that were meaningless, and completely missing the meanings behind actions that were deliberate. They're writing a mythology around you while you're just living your life. They're crafting a legend while you're just being yourself. And the funnier part? The real you, the actual you, the three-dimensional human being with flaws and fears and moments of absolute uncertainty, that version is so much more complex and interesting than the character they've created. But they don't know that. They can't know that. Because they're working with incomplete information, filling in the blanks with projection, creating a version of you that tells them more about themselves than it tells anyone about you. You're the mirror they're staring into while thinking they're looking through a window. You're the reflection that reveals their own insecurities, desires, regrets, and unfinished business. Every conversation about you is actually a conversation about them, and they don't even realize it. And then there are the midnight thoughts, the 3 a.m. spirals where someone is lying awake, staring at the ceiling, and your name crashes into their consciousness like a freight train they didn't see coming. They're replaying conversations from years ago, reanalyzing actions with the benefit of hindsight, and suddenly understanding meanings they completely missed in real time. They're having entire arguments with you in their head, conversations that never happened and never will happen, imaginary scenarios where they say what they should have said, where they do what they should have done, where somehow the outcome changes and the story has a different ending, but the ending already happened, the story already closed. And they're stuck in the epilogue, haunted by a conclusion they can't rewrite no matter how many times they rehearse alternative scripts in the theater of their regret. You're the phantom that visits them in these vulnerable hours, not because you're thinking about them, but because they can't stop thinking about you. Not because you need closure, but because they never got it. Not because you're reaching back, but because they never really let go. You exist in their unsent messages. They're drafted but deleted texts. They're opened then closed social media profiles. They're typed then erased search queries. You're everywhere in their digital footprints, even though you're nowhere in their actual life. And that distance, that unreachable quality, that absolute finality of your departure from their orbit, it haunts them more effectively than any revenge you could have planned ever would. Let's shift to the professional realm again, because this is where it gets delicious. Your name is in performance reviews, not yours, other people's. Someone somewhere is being evaluated, and your name comes up as the benchmark. They handled it like, or unlike when we dealt with, you became the measuring stick. You became the standard against which other situations are judged. Managers are using you as the example of how to handle conflict with grace. Teams are referencing you as the model of maintaining professionalism under hostile conditions. Organizations are studying the aftermath of their interaction with you and realizing they learned more from you than they taught you. You were supposed to be the student, the subordinate, the one taking notes. Instead, you became the teacher, the authority, the one everyone is still studying years later. And this drives certain people absolutely crazy, because the narrative was supposed to be different. You were supposed to break. You were supposed to crack. You were supposed to validate their approach by failing under the pressure they applied. Instead, you thrived. You evolved. You emerged stronger, clearer, more refined. You turned their test into your testimony. You converted their pressure into your polish. You transformed their intended destruction into your demonstrated resilience. And now they can't unsee it. They can't unfeel it. They can't unknow what they learned by watching you refuse to become what they expected you to become. But here's where it gets psychological. Your name is in people's fear, in their "what if I become like them" anxieties, in their "what if they were right about me" insecurities, in their "what if I'm the villain in someone else's story" paranoia. You represent something that terrifies them, the possibility of being wrong, the reality of consequences, the mirror that reflects their choices back at them without the comfortable filter of justification. They see what happened with you, and they wonder if they're next. They watch how you recovered, and they question if they could do the same. They notice your peace, and it disturbs their chaos because peace shouldn't be possible after what you went through. Yet there it is, radiating from you like evidence of something they can't explain. You became the proof that their methods don't work the way they thought they worked. You became the data point that breaks their model. You became the exception that disproves their rule. And in a world where people desperately need their rules to make sense, you're the chaos they can't categorize, the variable they can't control, the outcome they can't predict. So they keep talking about you, analyzing you, referencing you, because if they can figure you out, maybe they can figure out how to protect themselves from becoming the next lesson someone else learns. And in creative spaces, you're everywhere. Writers are crafting characters based on you. Artists are creating pieces inspired by the way you moved through tragedy. Musicians are composing melodies that capture the specific emotional frequency you transmitted when you walked away from toxicity with your head high and your spirit intact. You're in poetry you'll never read, in songs you'll never hear, in paintings you'll never see. You became muse without ever agreeing to be one. Your story is being told in 1,000 different ways by 1,000 different voices, each one adding their interpretation, their spin, their meaning. Some will make you the hero. Some will make you the mystery. Some will make you the lesson. Some will make you the legend. And you won't control any of these narratives. But that's the point. You don't need to control them. They're not really about you anymore. They're about what you represent to each person who encountered you. They're about the space you occupied in someone's understanding of how the world works. They're about the crack you created in someone's reality that let new light pour through. You were the catalyst for transformations you'll never witness, the spark for revelations you'll never know about, the reason for changes you'll never be credited for. And that's power. That's influence. That's legacy happening in real time while you're just living your life, unaware of the ripples extending outward from the stone you threw simply by existing authentically. Now, let's address the jealousy factor, because your name is definitely being mentioned with that particular flavor of resentment that tastes like admiration but smells like envy. People are comparing themselves to you and coming up short in categories they thought they dominated. They're watching your progress and doing the mental math that doesn't add up the way they want it to add up. How are they doing better when they should be doing worse? The cognitive dissonance is eating them alive. They designed a world where you should have failed, and you didn't fail. They created conditions where you should have broken, and you didn't break. They established circumstances where you should have given up, and you didn't give up. Every day you continue to exist successfully is another day their hypothesis gets disproven. Every achievement you unlock is another piece of evidence against their theory of how things should work. Every moment of your peace is another contradiction to their narrative about how people like you should suffer. And they can't handle it. They literally cannot process the reality that you're not conforming to the story they wrote about you in their heads. So they talk about you, trying to find the explanation, the loophole, the secret, the trick. the unfair advantage. Anything that explains how you're winning when, according to their calculations, you should be losing. They need you to be lucky so they don't have to admit you're skilled. They need you to be privileged so they don't have to acknowledge you're resilient. They need you to be somehow cheating the system so they don't have to face the fact that you simply played the game better than they did while following rules they kept breaking. Let's go back to therapy sessions, because there's a specific type of mention happening there that's almost poetic in its irony. Someone is in therapy specifically to get over you, not to process shared trauma, not to heal from mutual difficulties. No. They're in therapy because you, specifically you, broke something in them when you left, when you succeeded, when you moved on, when you stopped being accessible to their dysfunction. The therapist is carefully, professionally, trying to help this person understand that what they're feeling isn't actually about you. It's about them, about their attachment patterns, about their fear of abandonment, about their need for control, about their inability to accept that other people are autonomous beings who don't exist to fulfill roles in their personal narrative. But the patient keeps bringing it back to you. But they didn't have to. But they could have. But I needed. And the therapist is taking notes, diagnosing patterns, recognizing textbook behaviors, identifying projection mechanisms, and internally knowing that the person sitting across from them is not actually mourning you. They're mourning the version of themselves that existed when you were around to absorb their chaos, to be their emotional punching bag, to play supporting character in their drama. You were a function. You served a purpose. And when you stopped performing that function, when you refused to continue serving that purpose, their entire psychological ecosystem collapsed. And now they're in therapy, paying someone to help them rebuild what you exposed as fundamentally unsustainable. Your name is in that therapy office as the case study of what happens when someone finally says no, when someone finally chooses themselves, when someone finally walks away from a dynamic that was slowly killing them. You're the before and after moment. You're the wake-up call. You're the mirror that forced them to see themselves clearly for the first time. And they hate it. They hate what they see, but they can't stop looking, can't stop bringing you up, can't stop making you the centerpiece of their healing journey, even though the real work has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. In professional development circles, your name is attached to concepts like strategic silence, dignified exit, maintaining integrity under pressure. Leadership coaches are analyzing your behavior patterns and turning them into frameworks. Notice how they never defended themselves publicly. Yet everyone eventually understood the truth. Observe how they maintained professional relationships, even with people who wronged them personally. Study how they converted obstacle into opportunity. You became a masterclass in things you weren't even conscious you were doing. You were just surviving. But survival at that level, executed with that much grace, becomes strategy. Others are trying to reverse engineer your success by dissecting your methods, not understanding that there was no method. There was just you, being yourself, refusing to compromise your values, trusting the process even when the process felt like drowning. They're trying to package authenticity into a system, to bottle organic responses into repeatable techniques, to transform genuine character into teachable skills. And while some of it translates, the core of it, the essence of what made you effective, that can't be taught. That's something you either are or you aren't. That's the difference between performing integrity and embodying it. That's the gap between strategic appearances and authentic being. And that gap is exactly what makes you the subject they can't stop studying. Because they can see the results, they can observe the outcomes, but they can't quite capture the alchemy that made it work. Oh, look at that. Look at you, standing there, breathing easier, sleeping deeper, smiling without asking for permission first. You detached. You actually did it. You walked away from the circus, left the stage, stopped performing for an audience that never deserved a single encore. And now they're scrambling, panicking, reaching, clawing, attaching harder than they ever did when you were right there, bleeding yourself dry just to keep them interested. Isn't that something? The moment you stopped chasing, they started sprinting. The second you stopped explaining yourself, they demanded essays. The instant you found peace without them, they lost theirs completely. Welcome back to reality. Or should I say, welcome to the aftermath. Because what you're witnessing right now isn't love. It isn't regret. It isn't even respect. It's desperation. And desperation, my friend, looks absolutely hideous on them. Let's be ruthlessly honest here. For months, maybe years, you gave them everything. Your time, your energy, your attention, your forgiveness, your chances. You showed up when they disappeared. You texted back when they went silent. You made excuses for their behavior while they made you the villain in stories you weren't even part of. You bent, twisted, shrunk yourself into shapes that didn't fit, all because some twisted part of you believed that if you just loved them harder, tried more, stayed longer, they'd finally see your worth. But they didn't, did they? They saw you as available, as predictable, as someone they could access whenever they felt like it, without any real investment, without any genuine effort. They took your presence for granted because they never thought you'd actually leave. They thought you'd always be there, waiting in the wings, ready to jump back into their chaos the moment they snapped their fingers. But then, you did something they never saw coming. You detached, not with a dramatic exit, not with a farewell speech, not with threats or ultimatums. You just left. Quietly. Completely. You stopped responding to the breadcrumbs. You stopped showing up to the games. You stopped watering dead plants and expecting them to bloom. You withdrew your energy, your presence, your attention, and you redirected it all toward yourself, toward your healing, toward your peace. And that silence, that absence, that detachment, it did something to them that no amount of your words ever could. It woke them up. Not to your value, not yet, but to the fact that they no longer had control. And people who thrive on control absolutely lose their minds when they realize the game is over and they didn't even get a say in it. So now, here they come, suddenly interested, suddenly checking in, suddenly remembering you exist after weeks, months of radio silence. They're liking old posts, watching your stories within seconds of you posting, finding excuses to be in your orbit again. They're asking mutual friends about you, dropping your name in conversations, acting like they're concerned, like they miss you, like they've had some grand revelation about how special you are. But here's the truth they'll never admit out loud. They don't miss you. They miss the supply. They miss the attention you gave them. They miss having someone they could rely on to always be there, to always forgive, to always come back no matter how many times they disrespected your boundaries, dismissed your feelings, or made you feel small. What they're experiencing right now isn't love, it's withdrawal. And withdrawal makes people do desperate, ugly things. You ever notice how they didn't care about your silence until it became permanent? How they didn't miss your presence until it was completely gone? That's not coincidence. That's strategy failure. See, they operated under the assumption that you'd always crack first, that you'd always be the one to reach out, to apologize, to try again. They gambled on your goodness, on your loyalty, on your hope that things could change. And for a long time, they were right. You did come back. You did try again. You did forgive things that should have been deal breakers. But this time you didn't. This time you meant it when you walked away. And that shift, that finality, it triggered something primal in them. Panic. Panic doesn't look like love, though they'll try to dress it up that way. Panic looks like sudden affection after months of coldness. Panic looks like love bombing after weeks of neglect. Panic looks like promises they've broken 100 times before, delivered with a sincerity that almost feels real. They'll text you at 2 a.m. with, "I've been thinking about you," as if that erases the 2 a.m.s you spent crying over them while they were perfectly fine without you. They'll post cryptic quotes about losing someone who mattered, about regretting taking people for granted, about realizing too late what they had. And you'll see it. And a part of you, that part that still remembers loving them, might feel something. But don't confuse that feeling with an invitation to return. Because here's what's really happening. They're not missing the real you. They're missing the version of you that made them feel powerful. The version that chased, that waited, that hoped, that stayed despite every red flag. They're missing the dynamic where they held all the cards, where your happiness depended on their mood, where they could come and go as they pleased without consequence. Your detachment didn't just remove you from their life. It removed their sense of control. It removed their safety net. It removed the guarantee that no matter how badly they treated you, you'd still be there. And that terrifies them, not because they love you, but because they lost their favorite game piece. Watch how they operate now. Watch how they try to slip back in through side doors, through casual mentions, through "I was just thinking about you," messages that seem innocent but are carefully calculated. They're testing the waters, seeing if you've softened, seeing if enough time has passed for you to forget why you left in the first place. They're hoping you've missed them enough to overlook the patterns, to ignore the history, to give them another chance they haven't earned and won't appreciate. But you already know this dance, don't you? You've been here before. You've seen this episode. You know how it ends. The difference is, this time, you're not auditioning for a role in their chaos. This time, you're the one watching from a distance, unattached, unmoved, unbothered. And that unbothered energy? That's what's driving them insane. Because they can handle your anger. They can handle your sadness. They can even handle your disappointment. What they cannot handle is your indifference, your peace, your complete lack of reaction to their existence. That's the ultimate rejection. That's the ultimate power shift. You're not fighting for them anymore. You're not fighting with them anymore. You're not fighting at all. You've simply moved on. And that reality, that undeniable, irreversible reality, is eating them alive from the inside out. Now comes the performance, the grand show, the carefully scripted act where they pretend they've changed, grown, evolved into someone worthy of your time. They'll tell you they've been going to therapy, reading self-help books, working on themselves. They'll admit to their mistakes with a level of self-awareness that seems impressive until you realize it's just another manipulation tactic. They've learned that simply denying their behavior doesn't work anymore. So now they acknowledge it. They own it. They apologize for it. But they do it all in a way that's designed to pull you back in, not to genuinely make amends. Listen carefully to the language they use. "I know I messed up. I realize now what I lost. I was immature back then." Notice how it's always past tense? Notice how they frame their toxic behavior as something they've already moved beyond, as if personal growth happens overnight, as if patterns built over years can be dismantled in weeks. They're selling you a story of transformation, but they're skipping the actual work. Real change is slow, uncomfortable, and doesn't require an audience. Real change happens in private, through consistent action over time, not through dramatic confessions designed to get an emotional response. And here's where it gets manipulative. They'll use your own empathy against you. They know you're the type of person who believes in second chances, who wants to see the good in people, who hopes that love can inspire someone to become better. They know you have a soft heart beneath that armor you've built. So they'll appeal to that softness. They'll cry. They'll be vulnerable. They'll share just enough pain to make you feel sorry for them, to make you feel like maybe they really are suffering, maybe they really do regret losing you, maybe you should give them one more chance. But ask yourself this: where was this vulnerability when you needed it? Where was this emotional honesty when you were begging for basic communication? Where was this effort when you were still there, still trying, still hoping? The truth is, they didn't change. They adapted. They learned what didn't work last time, and they're trying a new approach. It's still manipulation, just with a more sophisticated script. They're not becoming a better person. They're becoming a better actor. And the moment you let them back in, the moment they feel secure in your presence again, the mask will slip, the patterns will resurface, the disrespect will return. Because people don't fundamentally change their character just because they lost access to someone. They change when they genuinely want to be better, when they're willing to do the uncomfortable work with no guarantee of reward, when their transformation is about them, not about winning you back. You know what real change looks like? Real change respects your decision to leave. Real change doesn't pressure you to return. Real change says, I understand why you walked away, and I respect your boundary even though it hurts. Real change focuses on becoming better for themselves and future relationships, not on convincing you to give them another shot at breaking your heart. If they were truly different, they wouldn't be desperately trying to prove it to you. They'd be quietly living it. They'd be demonstrating growth through their actions with other people, through their choices, through their life, without needing you to witness or validate it. The fact that they're performing this change specifically for your eyes tells you everything you need to know about how genuine it actually is. Here's what they didn't understand until now. Your presence was the light in their life, and your absence is the darkness they can't escape. While you were there, they took you for granted because light is easy to ignore when you're standing in it. But now that you're gone, now that they're sitting in the shadow of your absence, they're finally realizing what they lost. Not your love, not your loyalty, not your kindness, though those were all valuable. What they lost was the way you made them feel about themselves. You made them feel wanted, needed, important. You gave them purpose, validation, attention. You were the mirror that reflected back a version of themselves they actually liked. And now that mirror is gone. Now they're left with just themselves, and they don't like what they see. They're forced to confront their own emptiness, their own patterns, their own inability to maintain genuine connection. They're realizing that the chaos they created, the games they played, the distance they maintained, it didn't protect them. It isolated them. And isolation feels very different when it's no longer a choice but a consequence. They're experiencing the exact loneliness they put you through, except you survived yours and came out stronger. They're not sure they can do the same. Your absence is teaching them lessons your presence never could. When you were there, explaining yourself, defending yourself, trying to make them understand, your words fell on deaf ears because they didn't have to truly listen. They knew you'd still be there tomorrow. But now that you're silent, now that you're gone, suddenly they're hearing everything you said. Suddenly those conversations they dismissed are replaying in their mind. Suddenly they're understanding the pain they caused. Not because they've grown more empathetic, but because they're finally experiencing a fraction of what you felt. Your absence is the teacher they needed all along, the one voice they couldn't ignore, the one lesson they couldn't skip. And it's driving them crazy, isn't it? You can see it in the way they act. The sudden interest in your life, the obsessive checking of your social media, the questions they ask mutual friends, the random places they show up, hoping to run into you. They're desperate for any sign that you're struggling without them, that you miss them, that you're waiting for them to come back. But what they're finding instead is even more terrifying. You're thriving, you're glowing, you're at peace, you're living your life fully without them in it. And that reality is shattering the narrative they told themselves about how important they were to you. See, they convinced themselves that if they ever wanted you back, you'd come running. They believed that your love for them was so deep, so unconditional, so desperate that you'd always be available, always be waiting. But you proved them wrong. You proved that your love had limits, that your patience had boundaries, that your presence was a privilege they lost when they chose to abuse it. And now they're scrambling, attaching harder, desperately trying to get back something they never appreciated when they had it. But here's the beautiful, poetic justice of it all. The harder they chase, the further you drift. The more they reach, the less you care. the louder they get, the quieter your response. Because you've already moved on, and no amount of their desperation can pull you backward. Desperation has a sound, and once you know it, you can hear it from miles away. It's in the forced casualness of their messages. It's in the overly enthusiastic responses to things you post. It's in the way they try to remind you of good times, of inside jokes, of memories you shared, as if nostalgia is strong enough to override reality. They're not being genuine, they're being strategic. Every reach out is calculated. Every message is crafted to trigger an emotional response. Every reminder of the past is designed to make you forget why you left in the future. But you're not falling for it anymore, are you? You've seen this movie before. You know the ending. You recognize the pattern. They're not reaching out because they suddenly value you. They're reaching out because they need something from you. Validation, attention, forgiveness, access. And the moment they get it, the moment you respond with warmth, with openness, with that familiar energy they remember, they'll relax. They'll settle back into their old patterns. They'll start taking you for granted again, because that's who they are. Desperation doesn't change people. It just reveals what they're willing to do when they're no longer in control. And you can see it in their behavior, can't you? The inconsistency, the hot and cold. One day they're pouring their heart out. The next they're distant again, testing to see if you'll chase. They're operating from a place of scarcity, convinced that if they can just get your attention, just get you to respond, just get you to engage, they can slowly pull you back into the dynamic they controlled. But they're failing to realize something crucial. You're not operating from scarcity anymore. You're operating from abundance. You've discovered that life without them isn't the nightmare they predicted. It's actually better, calmer, healthier, more authentic. Watch how desperate they become when they realize their usual tactics aren't working. Watch how the messages increase in frequency, in intensity, in emotional manipulation. They'll start with casual, then move to concerned, then shift to vulnerable, then escalate to guilt-tripping, then maybe even swing to anger when none of it penetrates your peace. I thought you cared about me. I guess you never really loved me. You've changed. You're cold now. They'll try to make you feel bad for protecting yourself, for maintaining boundaries, for refusing to re-enter a situation that drained you. They'll frame your healing as heartlessness, your growth as betrayal, your peace as punishment against them. But here's what they don't understand. You're not being cold, you're being smart. You're not being heartless, you're being self-protective. You're not punishing them. You're prioritizing yourself. And that's the difference between who you were and who you are now. The old you would have felt guilty, would have questioned yourself, would have wondered if maybe you were being too harsh, too unforgiving, too rigid. The new you knows better. The new you recognizes manipulation when you see it. The new you understands that people who genuinely care about you don't make you feel bad for having boundaries. They respect them. And anyone trying to guilt you back into their life doesn't deserve access to it in the first place. There's a certain power in not caring anymore. Not in a bitter, resentful way, but in a genuine, peaceful way. You're not thinking about them constantly anymore. You're not analyzing their behavior, decoding their messages, wondering what they really meant. You're not losing sleep over them, not crying over them, not hoping they'll change. You've reached that sacred space of true indifference, where they're just another person who used to be in your life but isn't anymore. And that indifference, that emotional detachment, it's the ultimate form of freedom. They can feel it too. They can sense that shift in your energy. When they reach out now, they're not getting the warm, eager responses they used to. They're getting short replies, delayed responses, or sometimes no response at all. And it's killing them because they can't manipulate someone who doesn't care. They can't guilt someone who's emotionally detached. They can't control someone who's already free. Your indifference is the wall they keep hitting, and no amount of their effort can break through it because you built it with lessons they taught you. And here's the irony. They wanted you to stop being so emotional, to stop overreacting, to stop making everything a big deal. Well, congratulations to them. You did exactly that. You stopped feeling intensely about them. You stopped reacting to their behavior. You stopped making their actions a big deal in your life. But now that you've actually done it, now that you've become the calm, unbothered person they claimed they wanted, they hate it. Because what they really wanted wasn't for you to care less. It was for you to care differently, to care on their terms, when it was convenient for them, without holding them accountable. But you're done playing that game. You're done shrinking yourself to make them comfortable. You're done explaining your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding it. You're done giving energy to people who wouldn't give you peace. You've learned that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And you've mastered that indifference not through bitterness, but through healing. Through choosing yourself repeatedly until it became natural. Through protecting your peace until it became sacred. Through walking away until staying away became easier than any version of going back. This indifference you feel, this emotional freedom, it's not something they can ruin anymore. They can try to provoke you, to trigger you, to pull you back into emotional chaos, but it won't work. You're operating on a different frequency now. You're at peace in a way that their presence never allowed. And that peace is so much more valuable than any relationship with someone who consistently disrupted it. You've tasted freedom, and there's no going back to captivity. You've experienced calm, and there's no returning to their storm. You've found yourself, and there's no losing yourself in them ever again.